Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today we're going to talk about some of the stuff that you need to be doing and getting to get yourself prepared for what's coming. And I know we've talked about things like this all the time, but I want to bring you some new and different ideas, more than just the typical, you need to go buy food. We talk about that all the time on here, and other channels talk about that. It's a little windy today, so I'm hoping that it doesn't interfere too terribly much with this mic, but we will see. A lot of people have been asking about the map project. I haven't mentioned it in several days, and the reason is I've been busy with that. I've been busy with stuff here on the homestead. It's been really busy, but it is still happening. Some of you haven't received emails. The reason is I'm only sending out emails when I have connected you with other people in your area, and you may not have anyone else in your area just yet, but I'm getting emails all the time. It's a very slow process because I'm doing it all manually. I get an email in, I got to figure out where that person's at, and then try to figure out what other people live near them. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, if you go, and I'll try to remember to leave a link in the description. I made a video on this map project of how we can, an old-fashioned way to connect, a low-tech way to connect with each other, and that's what it is. So if you want to watch that video, you can find out more. But the video today is to try to figure out some of the things that we need to be doing to get ready for 2021 and the following after that of what all is going to happen. And it's really, in a lot of ways, a little bit more complicated than your typical, getting ready, prepping for something else. If someone was to ask me, what do you think I should do to prepare for a volcano or an earthquake or even a nuclear war and fallout? That would actually be pretty easy. I could tell you exactly what you need to do, how much you need to have, where you need to be, what you need to have to prepare and to protect yourself from it, whether it's a fallout or earthquake and the aftermath, all that kind of stuff. What's happening with all this great reset, mandated shots and, military moving all over the place and civil unrest and on and on and on is a little different because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We know something's going to happen, and they are telling us a lot of what they want to do. And I think a lot of it is they're throwing so much at us that they're hoping at least some of it sticks. That's usually their plan, is to overwhelm us with what they're wanting to do in hopes that some of it at least happens. We don't know what is going to happen. All of it, some of it, none of it, we don't know. But we do need to get ready because it's some major, major life-changing things that's happening. It's going to, radically change life as we know it here in the United States and in your personal life. So we do need to get ready for it. We do need to prepare as much as possible for it. So some of these ideas that I'm going to give you today is just that. To prepare not just with food, beans, rice, ammo, boomsticks, that kind of stuff, but a few other things that you can be doing to kind of get yourself ready for it. Some of the items that I'm going to be mentioning, there will be links in the description below for ones that I have used and that I like. And if you want to purchase through them, you're welcome to, or you can find them elsewhere if you want to. The first one, though, is communication. I did a video over on Patreon about this, expanded on this, so this is just a little abbreviated version. Communication is essential. And right now, pretty much the only ways that we have to communicate are through means that they control. We've talked about that. And it may eventually get to a place that it's unsafe or unreasonable for us to use these types of means of communication. So we're going to have some way else to communicate. We cannot continually use these things if they're going to control and manipulate us and spy on us and all this kind of stuff, all right? Or it could just be that things truly collapse and the infrastructure that make all this new technology work doesn't exist any longer, at least not for a while. So there's two ways that don't require infrastructure, and one of them is ham radio. Many of you are familiar with it. Some of you use them and have licenses, and others, you're like, sounds good, but I don't know much about it. Well, here's the thing. Ham radios have come down in price so much so that just about anyone can afford to get a ham radio. Back when I got into ham radio many years ago, it wasn't as cheap, and it was even worse and more expensive before then, unless you were buying some old unit or kind of building your own. But today you can get, especially these little handheld walkie-talkies, for a very, very reasonable price, less than $50. So there's no excuse not to have a few of them. You can communicate on your property, to your neighbors, and with the right equipment, you could communicate on the other side of the planet if you know what you're doing. So I suggest you get the equipment because it's not really that expensive anymore. But I also suggest that you get your license. I know that's controversial for some of you, but here's the thing. A lot of you say, well, I'm not going to get a license, and I'll just wait and use it when the world comes to an end and there's no government to come after me for using one without a license. That may never happen, but you also need to be using it and getting used to it and learning the technology, because it's not just like picking up a CB. You kind of have to know what you're doing to really get it right. You need to understand how the atmosphere works, how it plays into it. The sun, the moon, the different antennas, the different wattages. It all works. Kind of intricately, and you have to learn that. So you need to get your license so that you can be playing around and learning this stuff. And it's not difficult to get in it. The entry-level license is cheap and it's easy to get, so there's no excuse. Secondly, it's very similar to ham radio, but it's shortwave radio. Shortwave radio it's really old school, okay? That was what people like myself and older were listening to Patriot Radio on years ago, before there was the internet and podcasts and YouTube videos, internet radio. That's how we listened to Patriot Radio and information, health information, what was going on in the world, the real truth was through shortwave, and it's kind of fell out of popularity because of the internet. But in the rest of the world, it's still pretty popular, and it's a way that people can communicate with little to no infrastructure. And in times of bad times, pirate shortwave radios are always popular, and they still exist today. And a shortwave radio they're not that expensive. I mean, you can get them for around $20, but really a decent one you can get for around $50 or $60. Especially ones that have a place where you can put an external antenna in. That way you can get a bigger antenna, get it higher, and get a better signal. I'll leave a link to one in the description if you want to look at it. But I suggest getting a shortwave radio, because there may likely come to a place, a point in all this that's happening that that's really the only place that's getting out truth and information that you and I really want to hear, because the internet is going to, potentially become so controlled that you won't really find truth there. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about, and I've talked about it before, is water filtration. I'm not going to go into great details on that one, but listen, everybody knows you got to have water or you ain't going to live very long, right? And you can't store up all the water that you want. Now, there's nothing specifically that's happening with the Great Reset and all this to indicate that there's not going to be water supply, but every prepper should have some way to clean their water, to clean any water, so that they have it, because water is so critical. And, something like an Alexa Pure water filter or a big Berkey water filter, we have one of each. There's a little bit of investment there, but they are excellent. But you need to have water filtration. Just for anything, you just got to have it. And I don't think enough people talk about water filtration. Next one is get your health in order. Now, the video I talked on yesterday, we talked a lot about the health crisis that's happening now, the health crises that are going to happen. And if you haven't kept up, this Great Reset and a lot of the stuff, this, Agenda 21, 2030, 2050, a lot of it's centered around our health and public health. Public health has become huge. It's a way that they can control and manipulate the masses. They know that, and it's a big deal. And at some point, we're already seeing it happen, but at some point, these global health organizations like the World Health Organization, CDC, and others are going to become some of the most powerful ruling bodies on this planet. Now, how do you avoid all that? Well, one way is get your health in a way that you don't need their system, or at least you need it very little. There's a lot of indication. There's people talking about it. There was an opinion piece that I read promoting the idea that the new shot that's coming out should come with stipulations that the only way you can get your government welfare and assistance, the only way you can go to a hospital and a doctor and all this is if you show some type of certification that you've received it. They're already talking about it in other countries, and it's very likely at some point to happen here. So you need to have your health in a position that you're doing everything you can to keep from needing their system. I know that's not what everybody can do, because at some point most everyone needs a doctor or needs a hospital. But if you can limit your need to it, you're going to be steps ahead of everyone else. So improving your health, diet, exercise, learn natural ways to treat things. So if you got a common cold, you don't have to go in and have the thing stuck down your back of your throat and given a shot and all this kind of stuff just because you got a cold or a flu or something like that. Learn to take care of things on your own. I'll be making a video for Patreon where I'm going into more. I make stuff over there because YouTube doesn't like that kind of video over here. So we put stuff on other places about natural health and herbs and stuff. I've been talking about a book lately. The description will have a link to it. And it's a really good beginner book for herbal medicines and learning how to treat things in your home. It's a $15, $16 book. That kind of stuff is going to be critical to just avoid as much as possible and avoid the need of going to their systems and being part of the global health system. Not everyone's going to avoid it forever, but if we can limit and minimize our need for it, then we're, steps ahead and we're a little bit more self-sufficient. The next one is your money. Get your money secure. I mean, if you haven't noticed anything, you've got to have noticed that all this global reset and all this change, a lot of it's very centered around money systems, banking, investments, stocks. It's all going to change, folks. It's not just me. There's numerous advisors on YouTube and all over the internet warning people to take care of your investments quickly because things are going to crash. They're wanting to, crash the US dollar, remove it as the global currency, unveil this new digital currency, consolidation of banks, on and on and on. And so you need to do everything you can to secure your money. If you have investments, you need to think about, and I'm no financial advisor at all, so don't listen to me, do the research yourself. But if you have a financial advisor and he's like, everything's fine, don't worry about it, then I would suggest maybe finding a different one because there's plenty of people out there saying, if you really want to save what you have, you better rearrange your investments. Hard assets, gold, silver, real estate, and then the other stuff, bullets and boomsticks and food and paying off your debt is also important. Getting yourself out of debt. A lot of people believe that if some big crash happens, then well, we won't have to worry about it. I won't have to pay my debts and that blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen. Go back to the Great Depression of the 20s and 30s. That's how the billionaires were created, is because they went around buying up all the mom and pop farms, they bought up all the small banks and businesses, and they become global dictators basically, because they owned all the debt, they owned everything because they bought it up because everyone couldn't pay their debts off. So do everything you can to get out of debt as much as possible. That way you're less of a slave to this fiat money system. Next, learn to make sustainable money. Another thing that they're talking a lot about on the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, and so on, is that they even admit it. This is something they're very open about and honest, that they know that because of this, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, because a lot of jobs are becoming very high-tech jobs. A lot of jobs are shifting from human people, you and I doing them, to some type of AI, robot, automation. And so if you work in any kind of industry that you think that there's a chance that your job's going to be automated, you need to learn some other way to make money. And I'm not talking about just factory workers, but look at restaurants. I've read the other day there's several of the big chain restaurants that are working on this plan and technology to where the entire restaurant is done through automation and robots, that there will be no human person working in the restaurant. Yeah. There's already talk about, automated and autonomous vehicles for taxis and Uber drivers and stuff, and even truck drivers. So a lot of those jobs, and there's others. So healthcare is a good one to work in. Tech jobs, basically you're going to have to either choose to join the system and kind of work with them and learn what they're doing. So you learn the tech, you learn the code, you learn how to, AI code and stuff, so that you make money that way. Or there's an alternative. The alternative, I think, is going to be to learn to do things more old-fashioned, build things with your hands and fix things with your hands, because there's still going to be a lot of people, whether they're can't afford to buy new stuff. Maybe they're doing it on the black market because of all the control and manipulation with currencies. There's going to be a need for people that can make things, build things, fix things on their own. Refrigerators, washer dryers, automobiles, houses, all that kind of stuff. So learn a trade like that you can use it, whether it's through currencies or bartering, or your other option is probably going to be to just join in the club and learn high-tech jobs. And, if that's what you choose, that's okay also. The last thing I want to suggest is something that I tell you all the time, and I try to be gentle about it because I understand that many of you just aren't able to, and it's really tough. But I'm telling you, folks, if there is one and only one thing that you have learned in the year 2020, it has to be this: the big cities are not safe. If you live in a big city, I implore you to do everything you can to get out of that big city. You may have to make some sacrifices. We've made sacrifices. I've made sacrifices in the past to live this lifestyle. It's not always easy. It's not like you just, have a big check to go, buy it and live this way. Sometimes it's a struggle. You have to give up things to do it. There's nothing easy about it, but it's definitely more secure. It's definitely a safer place for your family. And if anything we have learned, it's that these big cities they're imploding between diseases, between violence, between government control, between just far left socialist, communist, Marxist ideology. It's rampant in these places, and the crime in all the big cities. Just this year, look at them, how much they've gone up. It's only going to get worse, folks. So any way you can, try to get out of the cities. I've been gentle about it in the past, not wanting to step on anyone's toes, but I'm telling you, it's just not a safe place to be. So these are some things. There's also several others. I'm sure many of you can think of them. Leave them in the comments below. That way others can learn also. But we have maybe a small window of opportunity to truly get ourselves prepared, because it's not what I'm saying. It's not what I believe. I'm saying what they're saying. It's happening, and it's happening pretty soon. So we need to get ready, because we don't know what exactly is going to stick. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.